I, 26F, stood frozen in my doorway as my ex-boyfriend Mark and his new girlfriend Sarah waited on my porch. Mark crossed his arms and said the words that would change everything. "You need to move out," he said. His voice was cold and flat, like he was telling me about the weather. Sarah stood beside him with a small smile on her face, watching me like this was some kind of show she had front row seats to. "What did you just say?" I asked. My hands were shaking, but I tried to keep my voice steady. Mark had been my boyfriend for 4 years. We had bought this house together just 8 months ago. Now he was standing here with another woman, telling me to leave my own home. "You heard me," Mark said. "This house is mine. My name is on all the paperwork. You need to pack your things and find somewhere else to live. Sarah is moving in this weekend." Sarah stepped forward and linked her arm through Mark's. "We need to start our new life together," she said. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were hard. "And that means you have to go." I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. This couldn't be happening. This house was supposed to be our future together. My parents had given us $30,000 for the down payment. We had picked out the paint colors together. We had planned which room would be the nursery someday. Now Mark was throwing it all away for this woman I'd never seen before. "How long?" I asked. The words came out as a whisper. "How long have you been seeing her?" Mark shrugged like it didn't matter. "3 months," he said. "But that's not important right now. What's important is that you understand the situation. This house belongs to me. Legally, you have no claim to it. I'm being nice by giving you time to pack instead of having you removed right now." 3 months. He had been lying to me for 3 months, coming home late from work, taking phone calls in the garage, smiling at me over dinner while planning his new life with someone else. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But more than anything, I wanted to slam the door in their faces. "My parents gave us the money for this house," I said. My voice was getting stronger now. The shock was wearing off and anger was taking its place. "That down payment came from them, from my family. They gave it to us as a gift," Mark said. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through it like this conversation was boring him. "Gifts don't come with strings attached. And since my name is the only one on the deed, the house is mine. You should have thought about that before you let me handle all the finances." He was right about one thing. I had let him handle everything. Mark worked at a bank and always said he understood money better than I did. When we bought the house, he said it would be easier to put everything in his name since he was dealing with all the paperwork anyway. I trusted him. I loved him. I never thought he would use it against me like this. Sarah laughed. It was a small, mean sound. "You really should have been smarter about this," and she said. "But I guess some people are just too trusting for their own good." I looked at her standing there in her designer jeans and perfect makeup. She was everything I wasn't. Tall where I was short, blonde where I was brunette, confident where I was quiet. And now she was taking everything I had worked for. "Get out," I said. The words came out harder than I expected. "Both of you, get off my porch right now." Mark put his phone away and looked at me with those blue eyes I used to love. "Your porch?" he said. "I think you're confused about who owns what here, but fine, we'll go. You have 1 week to move out. After that, I'm changing the locks." They turned and walked back to Mark's car. Sarah looked back over her shoulder and gave me a little wave. I watched them drive away, then went inside and locked the door behind me. My legs gave out and I slid down to sit on the floor. The tears came then, hot and angry and unstoppable. I cried for an hour, maybe two. Time stopped meaning anything as I sat there on the cold tile floor of the entryway. Everything I had believed about my life had just been destroyed. The man I loved had betrayed me. The home I thought was mine was being taken away, and there was nothing I could do about it. Or was there? I pulled out my phone and called my dad. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, sweetheart," he said. "How's my favorite daughter?" "Dad," I said, and my voice broke. "I need your help." I told him everything about Mark and Sarah, about the house, about how Mark's name was the only one on the deed, even though my parents had paid the down payment. My dad was quiet for a long time after I finished talking. That money was a gift to you, he said finally. Not to him. Your mother and I gave it to you for your future. We have the bank records showing the transfer from our account to yours, and then from yours to the house purchase. But Mark says gifts don't have strings attached, I said. He says since his name is on the deed, the house is his. My dad made a sound that was half laugh, half growl. We'll see about that, he said. Don't pack anything yet. Let me make some calls. Over the next 3 days, I learned a lot about property law. My dad connected me with a lawyer friend who specialized in real estate. She looked over all our documents and found something interesting. While Mark's name was on the deed, the mortgage was in both our names. I was equally responsible for the monthly payments, which meant I had what she called an equitable interest in the property. It's not a slam dunk case, she told me, but you have options. Especially since you can prove the down payment came from your parents as a gift to you specifically. I thought about fighting it in court. I thought about the months or maybe years of legal battles, the money it would cost, the stress of seeing Mark and Sarah over and over again in courtrooms and lawyers' offices, and then I had a different idea. What if I paid off the mortgage? I asked. The whole thing. What would happen then? The lawyer looked at me with raised eyebrows. Do you have that kind of money? She asked. I might, I said. My grandmother left me an inheritance when she died last year. I never touched it because I was saving it for the future. But maybe this is what I should use it for. The lawyer leaned back in her chair and smiled. If you paid off the mortgage in full, you could file for a deed transfer based on your equitable interest and the fact that you solely satisfied the debt. Since Mark hasn't made any payments without you, and since you can prove the down payment came from your family, you'd have a very strong case for sole ownership. How long would it take? I asked. If you moved fast and Mark didn't know what was happening until it was done? Maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I could pretend to be packing for 2 weeks. I could let Mark think he had won for 2 weeks. And then I could take everything back. I went to the bank the next day. The teller's eyes went wide when I told her I wanted to pay off my mortgage in full. She had to get a manager, who had to get another manager. Finally, they processed the payment. $187,000. My entire inheritance plus most of my savings. But it was worth it. While the payment was processing, I went to work on the legal side. My lawyer filed the paperwork for a deed transfer based on satisfaction of debt and equitable interest. She expedited everything, calling in favors and pushing papers through as fast as possible. Mark had no idea what was happening. He was too busy posting pictures on social media of him and Sarah looking at furniture for their new home. My home. I spent the next week and a half playing the part of the defeated ex-girlfriend. I packed boxes, but I just moved them to the garage instead of actually taking them anywhere. When Mark texted to ask how the move was going, I sent him pictures of the boxes and told him I was almost done. He didn't even respond, just sent back a thumbs up emoji. Sarah started posting on social media about her excitement for the move. She shared paint samples and furniture ideas. She even posted a picture of herself standing in front of my house with the caption, "Future Home Sweet Home." Her friends commented with heart emojis and congratulations. Every post felt like another knife in my back, but I kept quiet. I waited. 10 days after Mark had shown up at my door with his demands, the deed transfer went through. The house was officially, legally mine. Only mine. Mark's name was removed from everything. I held the papers in my hands and smiled for the first time in over a week. I had one more thing to do. I went to the store and bought the most beautiful gift box I could find. Silver paper with an elaborate bow. Inside, I placed a framed copy of the new deed with my name on it, just my name. I also put in a single key, the spare key Mark had given to Sarah. Then I waited. They showed up that weekend, just like Mark had said they would. Saturday morning, bright and early, Mark was driving a rental truck. Sarah was practically bouncing in the passenger seat. They pulled into the driveway like they owned the place, which of course they thought they did. I heard them coming up the porch steps. Mark didn't knock. He just used his key and walked right in with Sarah behind him. They found me sitting in the living room, the gift box on the coffee table in front of me. What are you still doing here? Mark asked. His voice was annoyed but not surprised. I told you to be out by today. I know what you told me, I said. I stood up slowly, keeping my voice calm and level. But I have something for you first. Sarah rolled her eyes. We don't want anything from you, she said. We just want you gone. I picked up the gift box and held it out to Mark. Please, I said. Just open it. Mark sighed like I was wasting his time, but he took the box. Sarah pressed close to him, peering over his shoulder as he pulled off the bow and lifted the lid. I watched their faces change as they saw what was inside. What is this? Mark asked. He pulled out the framed deed and stared at it. This has to be fake. It's not fake, I said. I paid off the mortgage in full 10 days ago, every penny of it. Since I satisfied the debt and could prove the down payment came from my parents as a gift to me specifically, I was able to transfer the deed into my name. Just my name. Sarah grabbed the frame from Mark's hands. This can't be legal, she said. Her voice had gone high and sharp. Mark owns this house. His name was on everything. His name was on the deed, I said. But my name was on the mortgage too. I was equally responsible for the debt. And now that I've paid that debt in full with my own money, the house is mine. That key in the box? That's the spare you gave her, Mark. You'll need to give me your copy too. Mark's face had gone red, then white, then red again. You can't do this, he said. I'll fight it. I'll take you to court. You can try, I said. But my lawyer says you won't win. See, you never made a single payment without me. Every check that went to the mortgage company had both our names on it. You can't claim sole ownership of something you never solely paid for. And since I have now solely paid for it, the house is mine. Sarah threw the frame onto the coffee table. It landed with a crack, the glass splitting down the middle. This is insane, she said. You're insane. Mark, do something. But there was nothing Mark could do. He stood there, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. All his arrogance was gone. All his confidence had evaporated. He looked like a little boy who had just been told Christmas was canceled. You have 48 hours to get your things. And get out, I said. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. I already have a locksmith scheduled to come Monday morning. If you're not gone by then, I'll have you removed for trespassing. My stuff, Mark said weakly. All my furniture, my clothes. You should have thought about that before you tried to steal my home, I said. You have 48 hours. I suggest you start packing. Sarah grabbed Mark's arm. We're not leaving, she said. This is supposed to be our house. You promised me this house. Mark shook her off. He was staring at me with something like shock in his eyes. How? He asked. How did you have the money? My grandmother, I said. The inheritance you told me to save for our future? Well, I decided my future was more important than ours, especially since you had already decided we didn't have one. That money was supposed to be for us, Mark said. His voice was getting louder now. The shock was wearing off and anger was replacing it. For our life together. Our children. Our children? I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. You mean the children you were planning to have with Sarah in my house? Those children? Sarah stepped between us. We're not leaving, she said again. I don't care what papers you have. Mark promised me this house and I'm not giving it up. Then I'll call the police, why? I said. I held up my phone. Would you like me to do it now or give you a few minutes to think about it? Mark grabbed Sarah's hand and pulled her toward the door. We're going, he said. But this isn't over. You can't just take everything from me like this. I'm not taking anything from you, I said. I'm taking back what was mine. What you tried to steal from me. There's a difference. They left then, Sarah still protesting and Mark dragging her along. I watched from the window as they got in the truck and drove away. The truck they had rented to move Sarah's things into my house. It would stay empty now. I spent the rest of the day changing the locks myself. I didn't want to wait for the locksmith. I went to the hardware store and bought new locks for every door. It took me hours to install them all, but when I was done, I had the only keys to my house. My house, Just saying those words felt like victory. Mark came back the next day, alone this time. He knocked on the door like a normal person instead of trying to use his key. I thought about not answering, but I wanted to see his face. I wanted to see him humble for once. Can we talk? He asked when I opened the door. He looked terrible. His hair was messy and there were dark circles under his eyes. Please, just 5 minutes. You can talk from there, I said. I didn't invite him in. He didn't deserve to come into my house anymore. He shifted his weight from foot to foot. I need more time, he said. 48 hours isn't enough to find a new place and move all my stuff. Can you give me a week? You gave me a week, I said. I'm giving you 48 hours. That seems more than fair. But I don't have anywhere to go, he said. His voice cracked a little. Sarah's place is too small for both of us, and all my things. I need time to find something. That sounds like your problem, not mine, I said. Maybe Sarah can help you figure it out. She seemed very confident about taking over my life. I'm sure she can handle this too. Mark's face twisted. She's furious, he said. She thinks I lied to her about owning the house. She won't even talk to me right now. So your new relationship is already falling apart? I asked. That's really sad, Mark. After you gave up everything for her, too. I didn't give up everything, he said. His voice was getting defensive now. I was trying to move forward with my life. You and I weren't working anymore. We weren't working because you were cheating on me, I said. For 3 months, you were lying to me every single day. And then you tried to steal my home. So forgive me if I don't have much sympathy for your current situation. Mark took a step closer to the door. That money your parents gave us was for both of us, he said. You had no right to use your inheritance to take the house. We were supposed to be partners. Partners don't lie to each other, I said. Partners don't cheat. Partners don't show up with their new girlfriend and demand that you move out of your own home. You stopped being my partner the moment you started seeing Sarah behind my back. I made a mistake, Mark said. The words came out rushed and desperate. I see that now. Sarah and I, we moved too fast. We got carried away. But you and I, we have history. We have 4 years together. Doesn't that count for something? I stared at him. Was he really trying to win me back now, after everything he had done? It counted for something, I said. It counted for a lot. Right up until you threw it all away for someone you had known for 3 months. We could work through this, Mark said. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Couples work through infidelity all the time. We could go to counseling. We could start over. With you living in my house? I asked. With your name back on the deed? Is that what starting over looks like to you? Mark's face flushed. It was our house, he said. It should be both of ours. What you did wasn't right. You tricked me. I used the law, I said. The same law you tried to use against me. The only difference is that I was smarter about it. Smarter? Mark's voice rose. You spent your entire inheritance on a house. How is that smart? You have no savings left, no safety net. What happens when something breaks? What happens when you need money for something? I'll figure it out, I said. On my own, without someone who lies to me and cheats on me and tries to steal from me. Mark ran his hands through his hair. This is crazy, he said. You're going to regret this. Living alone in this big house. No one to share it with. No one to help with the bills or the maintenance. You're going to realize you made a huge mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you, I said. Now get off my porch. You have 24 hours left to get your things. Don't make me call the police. He stood there for another moment, his mouth working like he wanted to say something else. Then he turned and walked back to his car. I watched him drive away, then went back inside my house. My quiet, peaceful, empty house. Mark and his friends showed up the next day with a truck. They loaded his things while I watched from the window. Sarah never came. I heard later that she had broken up with him as soon as she found out he didn't actually own the house. Apparently, dating a homeowner had been a big part of his appeal. It took them most of the day to get everything. Mark's furniture, his clothes, his gaming setup that took up half the basement. Box after box went into the truck while I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and enjoying the show. Sometimes Mark would look up at the window and see me watching. He would scowl and turn away, but I could see his shoulders slump a little more each time. When they were finally done, Mark came to the door one more time. I opened it before he could knock. Keys, I said, holding out my hand. He dropped his key ring into my palm without a word. His house key, the garage door opener, even the key to the shed in the backyard. Everything that had connected him to this place. I hope you're happy, he said. His voice was flat and tired. I hope this was worth it. It was, I said. Every penny. He turned to go, then stopped. What are you going to tell people? He asked. Our friends. Our families. What are you going to say about all this? The truth, I said. That you cheated on me and tried to steal my house, so I took it back. Nice and simple. Mark's face went red again. That's not the whole truth, he said. You're leaving out parts. Which parts, I asked. The part where you lied to me for 3 months? The part where you brought your girlfriend to my door to gloat? The part where you told me I was a burden to your future? Which parts am I leaving out, Mark? He didn't answer. He just walked back to the truck where his friends were waiting. They drove away and I never saw him again. The house felt different after he was gone. Bigger somehow. Emptier, but also fuller. Like it could finally breathe. I walked through every room, running my hands over the walls, looking out every window. This was mine. All of it. Every square foot belonged to me, and only me. I had given up my entire inheritance for this house. My safety net was gone. My savings were depleted. But I didn't care. This house was more than just walls and a roof. It was proof that I could stand up for myself. Proof that I wasn't the weak, trusting fool Mark had thought I was. Proof that sometimes the best revenge is just taking back what's yours. My parents came over that night for dinner. My mom brought lasagna and my dad brought wine. We sat at my dining room table, the one Mark had wanted to take but couldn't because I had bought it with my own money before we met. And we toasted to new beginnings. I'm proud of you, my dad said. You handled this whole situation with grace and intelligence. Grace? I laughed. I don't know about that. I wanted to throw things at him more than once. But you didn't, my mom said. You used your head instead of your emotions. You beat him at his own game. It wasn't a game to me, I said. This house, our life together, none of it was a game. I thought we were building something real. My dad reached over and squeezed my hand. You were building something real, he said. Just not with the right person. But this house is still yours. Your future is still yours. And now you don't have to share it with someone who doesn't deserve you. We talked late into the night about the house, about Mark, about what came next. My parents offered to help me financially while I rebuilt my savings, but I turned them down. They had already given me the down payment. The rest I would handle myself. After they left, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet, except for the tick of the clock on the wall and the hum of the refrigerator. For the first time in weeks, I felt peaceful. The anger was fading. The hurt was still there, but it was manageable. I had won. Not just the house, but something bigger. I'd won back my self-respect. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from a number I didn't recognize. When I opened it, I saw it was from Sarah. I hope you're happy now, she had written. You've ruined everything. Mark is devastated and it's all your fault. I thought about responding. I thought about telling her that Mark had ruined everything himself when he chose to cheat. I thought about explaining that actions have consequences and that trying to steal someone's home is a good way to lose everything. But then I decided she wasn't worth my time. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Over the next few weeks, word spread about what had happened. Some of Mark's friends took his side, saying I had been vindictive and cruel. They said I should have just accepted the situation and moved on. But most people understood why I had done what I did. Even Mark's own mother called me to apologize for her son's behavior. I didn't raise him to act like this, she said. I'm ashamed of how he treated you. And I'm glad you were able to keep the house. You deserve it after everything you've been through. Mark tried to paint himself as the victim on social media. He posted about how he had been tricked and manipulated, how his evil ex girlfriend had stolen his house through legal trickery. But people who knew the real story called him out in the comments. They reminded him that he had cheated, that he had tried to kick me out of my own home, that he had brought this on himself. Sarah disappeared from social media entirely. Their relationship, which had seemed so passionate and exciting when they were planning to steal my house, fell apart within weeks. I heard from mutual friends that she had dumped him as soon as she realized he wasn't the successful homeowner she thought he was. She had been attracted to his stability, his house, his seemingly put together life. Without those things, he was just another guy who had cheated on his girlfriend. Mark had to move back in with his parents. At 27 years old, after 4 years of living with me, he was back in his childhood bedroom. His stuff was in storage because there wasn't room for it all at his parents' house. He had gone from planning a future with Sarah in my house to sleeping in a twin bed under his old sports posters. Meanwhile, I was learning to live alone for the first time in years. It was strange at first, making dinner for one person, having the whole bed to myself, not having to check with anyone before making plans. But it was also liberating. I could decorate however I wanted. I could stay up late reading without worrying about disturbing anyone. I could have friends over whenever I felt like it. I painted the bedroom a color Mark had always hated, a deep, rich blue that made the room feel like a cocoon. I bought new sheets, new curtains, new artwork for the walls. I erased every trace of him from the space. It wasn't our bedroom anymore. It was mine. The financial situation was tight. Without my savings, I had to budget carefully. The mortgage was paid off, but there were still property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance costs. I took on extra shifts at work and started a side business doing freelance graphic design. Every dollar I earned went toward rebuilding my safety net. Some nights, when the house was dark and quiet, I wondered if Mark had been right. Was this too much house for one person? Was I going to regret spending everything to keep it? But then I would remember the look on his face when he realized he had lost, the shock in Sarah's eyes when she understood she wasn't getting the house she had been promised. And I knew I had made the right choice. 3 months after Mark moved out, I got a letter from him. An actual letter, not a text or an email. His handwriting was messy, like he had been emotional when he wrote it. In it, he apologized. Not for cheating, exactly, but for how he had handled things. He said he realized now that he had been wrong to try to take the house. He said he hoped someday we could be friends again. I threw the letter in the fireplace and watched it burn. We would never be friends. You can't be friends with someone who betrayed you so completely, who looked you in the eye and lied for months, who tried to steal your home and give it to someone else. Some things are unforgivable. 6 months after the confrontation, I was finally starting to feel stable again. My savings account was slowly growing. The house felt completely mine, like it had never belonged to anyone else. I'd even started dating again, though nothing serious. Just coffee dates and dinners, testing the waters of trusting someone new. One day, I ran into Sarah at the grocery store. She was alone, pushing a cart through this produce section. She saw me before I saw her and tried to duck down another aisle, but I called out to her. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see if she still had that smug smile. Maybe I wanted her to see that I was doing just fine without Mark, without drama, without any of it. She stopped and turned around slowly. Hi, she said. Her voice was small, nothing like the confident tone she had used when she stood on my porch and told me to leave. Hello, Sarah, I said. I kept my voice neutral, polite but not friendly. How are you? She shrugged. I'm okay. You? I'm great, I said, and I meant it. The house is wonderful. I just finished redecorating the living room. You should see it. Oh, wait, you can't. Because it's my house. Her face flushed. I never meant for things to happen the way they did, she said. Mark told me you two were already broken up. He said you were just roommates at that point, that you were planning to move out anyway. And you believed him? I asked. Even after he brought you to my door and I was clearly shocked? Even after I said my parents had paid the down payment? You still believed his lies? Sarah looked down at her cart. I wanted to believe him, she said. He seemed so sure of himself, so confident. And the idea of moving into that house, starting fresh, it was appealing. More appealing than finding out the truth? I asked. More appealing than basic human decency? She looked up at me then, and I saw tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she said. For what it's worth, I'm really sorry. I know what we did was wrong. Mark and we got caught up in something that wasn't real, and you paid the price for it. No, I said. You and Mark paid the price. I gotta keep my house. I gotta keep my self respect. I gotta move on with my life without a liar and a cheater dragging me down. I won. Sarah nodded. Yeah, she said. You did. We stood there for a moment, two women who had been on opposite sides of an ugly situation. Then Sarah pushed her cart away and I continued with my shopping. I never saw her again after that. A year after everything happened, I threw a party at my house. A housewarming party, even though I had been living there for over a year and a half total. I invited all my friends, my family, my coworkers. People filled every room, laughing and talking and celebrating with me. The house was alive with warmth and joy, everything it should have been from the beginning. My friend Emma pulled me aside during the party. You look happy, she said. Really, truly happy. I am, I said. It took a while, but I am. Do you ever think about Mark? She asked. About what? Could have been? I looked around my house at my friends enjoying themselves, at the life I'd built on my own terms. Sometimes, I said, but not with regret. I think about how lucky I am that he showed me who he really was before we got married or had kids. I think about how strong I turned out to be when I was tested. I think about how much better my life is without him in it. Emma raised her glass. To silver linings, she said. To silver linings, I agreed. The party went late into the night. After everyone left, I stood in my kitchen surveying the happy chaos. Empty glasses and plates, someone's forgotten jacket on a chair, music still playing softly in the background. My house had been full of people who actually cared about me, who celebrated my success instead of trying to take it away. I thought about Mark, probably lying in his childhood bed at his parents' house. I thought about Sarah, probably moving on to her next target. And I thought about myself, standing in my own kitchen, in my own house, living my own life. The gift I had given Mark wasn't just a deed and a key. It was freedom. Freedom from his lies, his betrayal, his attempts to control my future. The burden was his now, the burden of knowing he had lost everything because of his own choices. 2 years have passed now since that day on my porch. The house has seen me through job changes, new relationships, family celebrations, and quiet Sunday mornings. Every mortgage-free month that passes, I think about the inheritance I spent and feel grateful to my grandmother for giving me the means to fight back. She would have been proud, I think, to know her money went toward protecting what was mine. I've rebuilt my savings. I've redecorated every room. I've hosted holidays and birthdays and random Tuesday night dinners. This house has become what it was always supposed to be. A home built on trust and love and honesty, just not with the person I originally thought. Sometimes I drive past Mark's parents' house and see his car in the driveway. He's still living there, as far as I know, still trying to rebuild his life after losing everything in his attempt to take what wasn't his. I don't feel sorry for him. He made his choices. He decided that Sarah was worth more than our 4 years together. He decided that the house was his to take. He decided to lie and cheat and betray. Every consequence he faces is one he earned. The last I heard, he was dating someone new, someone who doesn't know the whole story, probably. Someone who believes whatever version he's telling now. I hope he's learned something from what happened. I hope he treats her better than he treated me. But mostly, I hope I never have to find out. My house stands as a monument to one of the worst and best times of my life. Worse because of the betrayal, the pain, the shocking cruelty of someone I loved. Best because of how I responded, how I fought back, how I refused to let him win. Every room holds memories now, Not of Mark and our failed relationship, but of my own strength and determination. The spare key I took back from Sarah sits in a drawer in my kitchen. I've never given it to anyone else. Maybe someday I will when I meet someone who deserves that level of trust. Or maybe I'll keep it forever. A reminder that some things should never be handed over too easily. Trust, like houses, should be protected. When people ask me about the house, I tell them the truth. I bought it with my ex, he cheated and tried to take it, so I paid it off and took it back. Simple as that. They usually want more details, want to know how I managed it, want to hear about the drama and the confrontation. But I don't elaborate much. The victory speaks for itself. You're so brave, they often say. Or, I could never have done that. But they're wrong. Anyone can be brave when someone tries to take everything from you. Anyone can find strength when their back is against the wall. I wasn't special or particularly clever. I just refused to be a victim. I refused to walk away from what was rightfully mine. I refused to let Mark and Sarah's betrayal be the end of my story. Instead, it was a beginning. The beginning of a life where I know my own worth, where I stand up for myself without hesitation, where I don't let anyone take advantage of my trust again. The house is more than just property now. It's proof that I can survive anything. It's proof that sometimes the best revenge really is success. I've learned to be happy alone in ways I never was when Mark lived here. I dance in the kitchen while cooking dinner for one. I spread out all my art supplies on the dining room table and leave them there for days. I take long baths in the middle of the afternoon just because I can. There's no one to compromise with, no one to check with, no one to lie to me about where they've been. The garden has become my special project. Mark never cared about it, said yard work was a waste of time. But I've planted roses along the fence and vegetables in raised beds. I grow tomatoes and peppers and herbs that I use in my cooking. Every bloom, every harvest feels like another small victory. Another thing that's mine and only mine. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, helped me learn about gardening. She's in her 70s and has lived next door for 30 years. She told me she never liked Mark. Something about his eyes, she said. They never looked straight at you. Always looking past you to something better, but she likes me. She brings me cuttings from her plants, and I share my vegetables with her. It's the kind of relationship Mark would have called pointless, but I call it community. Work has gotten better too. Without the stress of Mark's drama, I've been able to focus on my career. I got a promotion 6 months ago, a raise that helps pad my savings even more. My boss said she noticed a change in me, more confidence, more willingness to speak up in meetings. I didn't tell her it was because I had learned to fight for what was mine. Some lessons carry over into every part of your life. I joined a book club that meets in my living room once a month. 8 women who come over to drink wine and talk about novels, and sometimes forget to even mention the book at all. Mark would have hated it, would have hidden in the basement playing video games and complaining about the noise. Now the house fills with laughter and conversation, and there's no one to complain. One of the women in the book club, Jessica, went through a similar situation with her ex-husband. He tried to hide assets during their divorce, tried to claim their vacation home was his family's property. She fought him for 2 years in court and won. We sometimes stay late after everyone else leaves, comparing notes on betrayal and survival. She says I'm lucky I never married Mark. I agree. If we had been married, the house situation would have been even messier. The important thing, Jessica always says, is that they showed us who they really were. And we believed them. She's right. When Mark showed me he was a liar and a cheater who would try to steal my home, I believed him. I didn't make excuses or pretend it would get better. I didn't try to fix him or save the relationship. I just acted accordingly. I saved myself instead. The house has seen other relationships since Mark. Nothing serious yet, but possibilities. Men who come for dinner and compliment the blue bedroom walls, who help fix the leaky faucet and don't act like they own the place afterward, who understand when I say I'm not ready to share keys or combine finances, who respect that this house is mine and will stay mine regardless of what happens between us. One guy, David, asked me once if I was afraid of being alone forever. We were sitting on my back porch watching the sunset, and the question came out of nowhere. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I'm not afraid of being alone, I told him. I'm afraid of being with someone who makes me feel alone. Someone who lies to me. Someone who would take everything if I let them. That's what scares me. David nodded and didn't push. We dated for a few more months before deciding we were better as friends. He still comes over sometimes to help with house projects. He installed new shelves in the garage last week. Mark would have been threatened by a friendship like this, would have accused me of something inappropriate. But Mark isn't here to accuse me of anything anymore. The holidays are mine now, too. I host Thanksgiving for my family, cooking in my kitchen, serving dinner in my dining room. My cousin's kids run through my halls and play in my backyard. My uncle falls asleep on my couch watching football. It's loud and chaotic and wonderful. Everything a home should be during the holidays. Last Christmas, I got a card from Mark's mother. Inside, she had written, "Thinking of you and hoping you're well." The house looks beautiful. From the outside, you've done a wonderful job with the garden. I realize she must drive by sometimes, checking on the house she probably thought would have been her son's. I sent her a card back, thanking her for her kind words. She wasn't responsible for what Mark did. She had lost something too in all of this. The daughter-in-law she thought she would have, the grandchildren she might have had, the version of her son she believed in. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I walk through the house in the dark. I know every creaky board, every light switch, every corner. I run my fingers along the walls and think about how close I came to losing it all. Not just the house, but my sense of self. If I had accepted Mark's demands, if I had packed my things and left like he wanted, who would I be now? Someone smaller, certainly. Someone who didn't know her own strength. But I didn't leave. I didn't accept it. I fought back with the only weapons I had, money and the law, and I won. The victory isn't just in keeping the house. It's in knowing that when pushed to the edge, I didn't crumble. I pushed back harder. The master bathroom is my favorite room now. It sounds odd, but it's true. Mark never let me decorate it the way I wanted. He said my ideas were too feminine, too impractical. Now it's exactly what I always envisioned. A clawfoot tub, vintage mirrors, plants hanging in macrame holders. It's excessive and beautiful and completely mine. Every bath I take in that tub feels like a celebration of freedom. I've started teaching myself home repair. YouTube videos and library books have become my teachers. I fixed a running toilet, patched drywall, and even replaced a ceiling fan. Each successful repair feels like another step away from dependence. Mark used to handle these things, acting like they were too complicated for me to understand. Turns out, they're not that complicated at all. Just like keeping the house wasn't as complicated as he thought it would be. My friend Rachel asked me recently if I ever forgive Mark. We were painting my guest room, a soft green color that makes the morning light look magical. The question caught me off guard. I don't think about forgiveness, and I said, I think about moving forward. Forgiveness would mean I have to keep him in my life somehow, even if just in my thoughts. I'd rather just let him go entirely. But don't you think about him when you're in the house? She asked. Don't the memories bother you? I looked around the room we were painting. Mark's office had been here once. Now it was becoming a space for guests, for friends who needed a place to stay, for family visiting from out of town. The memories are like old paint, I said. You just cover them up with something better. And that's what I've done. Covered every bad memory with a better one. The kitchen where Mark told me about Sarah is now the kitchen where I taught myself to make homemade pasta. The living room where we argued about money is now where my book club meets. The porch where he demanded I leave is where I drink coffee every morning and watch the birds in my garden. Even the bedroom has been reclaimed. The first night I spent alone in there after Mark left, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the lies he must have told while lying next to me. All the times he said he loved me while planning his future with someone else. But now that room is my sanctuary. My books piled on the nightstand, my grandmother's quilt on the bed, my photos on the walls. No traces of him remain. I found one of his socks under the dresser last month. It must have been there for over 2 years. I held it for a moment, this small remnant of a life that seemed so permanent at the time. Then I threw it in the trash. No ceremony, no emotion. Just another piece of garbage to be disposed of. The neighborhood has embraced me as a single homeowner. They invite me to barbecues and help shovel my driveway when it snows. Mr. Patterson from across the street even mows my lawn sometimes when he's doing his own. No trouble at all, he says when I try to pay him. That's what neighbors do. They never did these things when Mark lived here. Maybe they sensed the tension, the wrongness of it all. Or maybe I'm just more approachable now, more open to community. I've become the success story my friends tell at parties. You should hear what my friend did when her boyfriend tried to steal her house. They love the part about the gift box, the dramatic reveal, the look on Mark's face. It's become almost mythical in the retelling. But for me, it's just what happened, just what I had to do to protect what was mine. Sometimes young women reach out to me, friends of friends who are going through similar situations. Their boyfriends or husbands are trying to manipulate them out of money or property. They want to know how I did it, how I found the courage. I tell them it wasn't courage. It was anger transformed into action. It was refusing to be a victim. It was believing I deserved better and then making sure I got it. I tell them to get lawyers, to document everything, to trust their instincts when something feels wrong, but mostly I tell them that they're stronger than they think. That when someone tries to take everything from you, you find out what you're really made of. And most of us are made of tougher stuff than we realize. The house's value has gone up since I took full ownership. The neighborhood is developing, new shops and restaurants opening nearby. If I sold now, I'd make a significant profit. But I'm not selling. This house was worth my entire inheritance, worth depleting my savings, worth the months of stress and uncertainty. It's worth even more now, not in dollars, but in what it represents. Every mortgage statement that shows a zero balance makes me smile. Every property tax bill that comes only in my name feels like a victory. Every decision I make about the house, from what color to paint, the shutters to whether to get solar panels, is mine alone. There's a freedom in that solo ownership that I didn't expect. A weightlessness that comes from not having to consult anyone else. I hired contractors to renovate the basement last month. Mark's gaming cave has been transformed into a home gym and art studio. The contractors were impressed that a single woman owned such a house outright. Good for you, the lead contractor said. Not many people your age can say that. I didn't tell him the whole story. I just smiled and agreed that I was fortunate. But it wasn't fortune. It was determination. It was refusing to roll over when someone tried to bulldoze me. It was using every resource I had to fight back. The fortune was in having those resources, yes, but also in having the clarity to use them when it mattered most. I think about my grandmother sometimes, the one whose inheritance made this possible. She was a fighter, too. Left widowed young with 3 kids, she worked 2 jobs and put them all through college. She would have understood what I did. She would have been proud that her money went toward justice rather than surrender. Her photo sits on the mantle now, along with pictures of my parents, my siblings, my friends. The mantle Mark wanted to mount a TV over, turning the living room into an electronics showroom. But I said no then, one of the few times I stood up to him during our relationship. And now the mantle holds the faces of people who actually love me, including the grandmother who gave me the means to fight. The gift box I gave Mark has become legendary among my friends. They joke about it, saying I should start a business helping people serve revenge in beautiful packages. But it wasn't about the presentation. It was about the transformation of something that looked like defeat into absolute victory. The box was just wrapping paper on justice. I kept the cracked frame that Sarah threw on the coffee table. It's in my closet, the deed still inside with the crack running right through the middle. A reminder that anger and violence don't win. That throwing things and making threats don't get you what you want. That sometimes the quietest response is the most devastating. 3 years have passed now since that Saturday morning when they came for the house. 3 years of solo home ownership, of building a life that's entirely mine. The dramatic story has settled into peaceful routine. The house that was almost stolen has become simply home. I still get the occasional text from unknown numbers, former friends of Mark's or Sarah's, people who heard the story and want to tell me I was wrong. I delete them without responding. Their opinions don't matter. They weren't there. They didn't feel the betrayal or fight the battle. They don't get to judge the victory. Last week, I was at the hardware store buying paint for the fence when I saw Mark. He was in the next aisle looking at lawnmowers. For a moment, our eyes met. He looked older, tired. His clothes were wrinkled and his hair was thinning. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closed it and walked away. I went back to choosing paint. There was nothing left to say between us. The cashier at the hardware store knows me now. Another project? She asked as she rang up my paint. You're always working on that house of yours. It's good to take care of what's yours, and I said. She smiled. Must be a special place. It is, I said. It really is. And it's true. This house is special. Not because of its size or location or value, but because it's proof that I can protect what matters to me. Proof that betrayal doesn't have to mean defeat. Proof that sometimes when someone tries to take everything from you, you can take it all back and more. The fence looks beautiful now, painted a crisp white that makes the garden pop. Another improvement, another step forward, another way this house becomes more mine with each passing day. Mark and Sarah thought they were taking my burden when they tried to steal this place. But the only burden was them. And I gave that burden right back, wrapped in silver paper with a beautiful bow. The house stands strong, mortgage-free, completely mine, and so do I.